Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another PS5 video. So we can now jailbreak the PS5 up to firmware version 7.61. So I thought I would do an updated buyer's guide here to help you guys find a console that is going to be on a jailbreakable firmware so you can take advantage of this jailbreak. Now, if you already own a PS5, you can check your current firmware version by heading into the settings and going to System, System Software, and Console Information. If we zoom into this long string of numbers here, after the first dash, you have your firmware version, which currently mine is 07.61, which is the highest firmware that is currently jailbreakable with this new jailbreak. So you need to get a console that is on either 7.61 or a lower number. If the number is higher than 7.61, then unfortunately you will not be able to take advantage of this jailbreak. But the purpose of this video, of course, is for people who don't already have a jailbreakable PS5 and are looking to try and buy one. How can you guarantee that the console that you're going to buy is going to be on a low enough firmware? So there's a few different methods that I'm going to show you here in this video. So unlike previous jailbreaks, this jailbreak can actually be triggered using 3 different methods. So you can either use a Blu-ray disc to run the jailbreak, which will require a Blu-ray burner and a blank Blu-ray disc, preferably a BD-RE disc. So those are required if you want to run the jailbreak using a Blu-ray disc. The second option is to load the jailbreak using some obscure Japanese games. So games that use the Artemis engine, which are these obscure Japanese weeb games, which I'll list here on screen. They can also be used to run the jailbreak, but if you're not in the Japanese market, you'll have to get them imported, and that can be quite expensive. And again, you need a physical copy of that game, which will also require a disk drive in your console. Now, the third method is that you can run the jailbreak using the web browser, which is the easiest way to run it. But unfortunately, the web browser method was patched as of 6.0. So if you are on firmware 6.0 to 7.61, you only have the Lua exploit and the Blu-ray exploit that you can use, which will require a disc edition console, preferably one of the original disc edition consoles. So that will be required if you're on any of those firmwares, 6.0 to 7.61. You can use a digital edition console if you're on 5.50 or lower. So if you get a console on 5.50 or lower, you can use the web browser, which is much easier, and it also works with digital edition consoles, does not require a disk drive. But if you get a console on, say, 6.0 to 7.61, then it will require a disk drive in order to be able to run the Blu-ray exploit or the save game exploit. So that's the situation we're in right now with the jailbreak. It is also possible that we will get a newer WebKit exploit that will work up to 7.61 in the future, but obviously this video is for the here and now and not what might come out sometime later. Now, I don't recommend going for a PS5 Slim, and the reason for that is that you will not find any Slims on 5.50 or lower that can use the web browser exploit right now, and a lot of the even disc edition versions of the Slims, some of the early ones that were being produced did not actually have the disk drive pre-paired to the console. So you would have to pair it with PSN manually, which would require you to update to the latest firmware to use the disk drive. So even if you get an early model disc edition version of the Slim, you could run into an issue where you're not able to actually use that disk drive without updating, and then you're not able to run the jailbreak that requires the Blu-ray disc or the save game exploit, which would be a problem, and you'd have to wait for a new WebKit exploit to be able to load it. So that is why I don't really recommend going for a Slim at the moment. So if we're looking for a console that is on 5.50 or lower to use the web browser exploit, so we're looking for a PS5 in that case that was manufactured before September of 2022. And as for disc edition consoles that are on 7.61 or lower, well, in that case, you're looking for a console that was manufactured before September of 2023. So there's multiple ways that you can check to make sure your console is going to be on a low enough firmware. The easiest method is just to check the model number first of all. So the model number can be found on the front of the box. It's normally CFI- and then a 5-digit number. So you can find it in the bottom right hand corner of the box, also on the side of the box as well in the corner, also in the top, it's in the corner as well, and in the little square cutout on the bottom that has the barcodes and serial numbers, you'll also find it there. So if the model number starts CFI-10, then it's guaranteed to be on a firmware lower than 7.61 and even 5.50. So you can definitely pick up a console that has that model number as long as it's, new in box and it's not been previously owned by somebody else who might have updated it. So in that case, you'll be able to definitely get one of those consoles and it will be on a jailbreakable firmware. If you're looking for a disc edition console that is on 7.61 or lower, then you can also get CFI-11 models like a CFI-1115A or CFI-1116A. Any of those would be fine because those will also be lower than 7.61, but will not necessarily be lower than 5.50. So that is the general advice there. As for the CFI-12 models, those are not recommended because there may still be a couple of those models on 8.0 that have patched the jailbreak because they were still manufacturing those just up until the point when 8.0 came out. So not recommended to get a CFI-12 model just by looking at the model number. So if you're not able to find any older models, the other option, of course, is to look for a bundle. So PlayStation have these limited run bundles whenever there's a new game coming out, where they will bundle the game with the console. And you can basically buy one of those bundles because normally those bundles kind of stop being produced not long after the game comes out. So that way you can kind of tell based on when the game came out what firmware it's going to be on. And there is a table here on the PlayStation 5 developer wiki, which shows you a bunch of bundles here for the FAT models and what firmwares they start and end on. So as long as the end firmware is 7.61 or lower, you can get one of those bundles and it will be on a jailbreakable firmware. So that's another option there. Now, one thing that you do have to watch out for when you're buying from an online retailer is that sometimes they may sell you a separate standard version of the console with a separate copy of the game and name it the same as the official bundle, especially if they run out of stock of the official bundle itself. In which case, it may say somewhere in the description or in the fine print on the website something about, you know, the game and console may come separately, or it might say something about the box art may differ. So check for any of that kind of information before you buy it so that you do not get caught out by that and end up getting shipped a newer console. So the third method is to check the serial number of the console that you're buying. You can check this on the little square cutout on the bottom of the box that shows the barcodes and serial numbers. So the serial numbers are different depending on what market you're in. If you're in the European market or the North American market, the serial numbers are different. So if you're in the US market, if you look at the bottom of the bottom barcode, there should be a serial number like A something like AJ and then a bunch of numbers. So you can check the first numbers of that AJ serial number and compare it against the ones here on PS Dev Wiki to get an idea of what firmware that console will likely be on. So as you can see, like if it's an AK9145, then it's likely to be on 5.10. If it's an AK368, it's likely to be on 4.50. So with the European serial numbers, it's the serial kind of in the middle that we're looking for there. So the S01-F21601, that's the serial number you're looking for in the European market. And again, with the PS5 Dev Wiki, you can find information here about like CFI-11 models. And if your serial number is like 221, it's likely to be on 4.50. If it's 22C, it's likely to be on 6.02. So you can check the serial number with these. You've also got CFI-12 models from 2022. And it's got the information in there. And then you can go all the way and check CFI models 2023. And then all the way down to Slims, which also has the information, so you can compare the serials here as well. So the really great thing about the European serial numbers is that you can actually determine down to the year and month that the console was manufactured just by checking that serial number itself. So if we take a look at this serial number, so SO1 dash and then a letter, we don't care about that first letter after the dash. It is the numbers after it. So the first number is going to be the revision number, which we don't really care too much about there. The next number after that is the year that the console was manufactured. So 3 in this case means 2023, 4 would be 24, 5 would be 25, etc. So if you're looking for a console on 7.61 or lower, then you'd be looking for a console that is a 0, 1, or 2, or even a 3. But obviously that depends when in 2023 it was manufactured. So this one is a 3, so it was manufactured in 2023. So what we can then do is look at the next number over, which represents the month that the console was manufactured. So 3 means March. So March 2023, 1 would be January, 2 would be February, etc. It's also a hexadecimal number. So once it goes past September, which is 9, it will then go A for October, B for November, and C for December. So this console would be fine if you're looking for a console that's going to be on 7.61 or lower. This one will be on 7.61 or lower because it was manufactured in March 2023 and 8.0 didn't come out until September of 2023. So this one would be a buy if you're looking for 7.61 or lower. Whereas if we compare it to this serial number, this is a slim. So this serial number is E43A. So the 3 represents 2023 again, but the A would be October, which would likely be on 8.0. So you certainly wouldn't want to buy this one because it would likely be on firmware 8.0. So that is kind of how you can tell just by looking at the serial number. Obviously, if you're looking for a 5.50 console or lower so that you can use the web browser version of the exploit with a digital edition console, for example, in that particular case, you'd be looking for a console that was manufactured before September of 2022 instead of 2023. So in that case, if the second number in is a 0 or a 1 for 2020 and 2021, then it will be on 5.50 or lower, so that would be fine. And if it's a 2 for 2022, then you'd be checking the next number over to make sure it was manufactured before September, when, of course, 6.0 came out. So if the year number is 2 and the month number is 1 through 8, then it will be on 5.50 or lower. And if the year number is 0 or 1, then it's 2020 or 2021, so it'll definitely be on 5.50 or lower. So this is a good way that you can check with European serial numbers to determine exactly when it was manufactured, so you can make sure your console is going to be on a low enough firmware. So that's my general advice there. You can check the model numbers, you can go for a bundle, you can compare the serial numbers with the versions on the developer wiki that give you a bunch of serial numbers and what firmwares they're estimated to be on. And then, of course, you can also, with European serial numbers, check the year and month in the serial number to check exactly when it was manufactured, so you can make sure you get a console that was manufactured on 7.61 or lower, or 5.50 or lower, depending on what you're going for. And as always, I want to give a quick shout out to the channel MCKUC, who was the one who gave me the information about the serial numbers. So there's more information about the European serial numbers over on his channel. He's got lots of videos on that, as well as how to get consoles that use different fans that are quieter or more efficient at cooling. So you can also check his channel out for that information too. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this video or found the information useful. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe. And as always, I'll hopefully see you guys in the next one.